right. Hello everyone. My name is Lian, and my research is about machine learning ethics in medical screening. So my research question: what improvements can reduce the issues regarding ethics and the efficacy of machine learning in medical screening? So to start this presentation, I want to start by this question. What brought me to this question? To answer that, I'm going to ask another question. So how many of you guys know what the movie Terminator is? Can you show of hands? Good. Well, that's exactly how I got to this question or this topic. After watching the movie, I was thoroughly intrigued to see how applicable it was in our society. And for the medicine aspect, I just want to broaden my horizon about how medical screening is affected by technology. And for the ethics, I just want to see how ethics plays a role and just answer some philosophical ideas and ethical questions around this topic. So this leads into my literature review. So artificial intelligence, in its most basic terms, is a broad network of computer science. And in the context of my research, it's a system that can behave and interact intelligently. Machine learning, on the other hand, is a little different. And here's why. So artificial intelligence from in the past has always acted and behaved the way it was built to do. So anything out of the confines of the way it was programmed, it can't do. Machine learning, on the other hand, is different because it can take past experiences, past knowledges to make new conclusions. Like, I'll give you an example. So let's say we have two labeled foods, like a banana and an apple. Now, machine learning can differentiate the characteristics and factors that make each one unique, such as the color, the texture even. And when it's presented with, let's say, another food, a pineapple, using the past experiences, it can identify that it's not an apple because it doesn't have the same characteristics. And so that's what makes it so unique compared to artificial intelligence. And so this has become more practical. We see in our everyday lives, here's another example. So search engines. What search engines do is use machine learning to recommend you the things you like. Let's say you watch a certain video, it'll give you similar things related to that video. And so this will become more practical, and especially in the medical field, it's becoming more important and prevalent. So that is what my research will be about. And so my goal for this research is to, number one, inform the audience about the implications machines can have on the medical field, and to bring awareness to the implications and the pros and the cons, and to give additional information on what has been already said by providing solutions to like the problems if there's any, and just add on to existing research. And I did this by a meta-analysis. So I chose a meta-analysis because I feel like gathering information and data from experts in their own field, such as machine learning, which relates to technology, medical field, and ethics, will be most efficient considering how this topic is a newer topic. Let's say, for example, if I were to do a survey, and if I were to do a survey, I wouldn't get much insightful responses due to like not much research being done, and there wouldn't be much people that have knowledge on all the three topics combined. So that's why I chose a meta-analysis. And within my topic, as I mentioned, there are three topics, machine learning, and one of them is medical screening. So medical screening is essentially a method that is used to detect any diseases or body dysfunctions before a patient is required to meet like a medical expert or like a doctor. And it's been a great contribution to the medical field because it has really impacted a lot of people's lives and has saved billions of lives across the globe. And while I think it is an effective way to eliminate some certain diseases before they get life-threatening, it can sometimes not always be reliable, and here's why. So this is a figure by the National Technology for Biotechnology in 2013. This figure shows there are 10 people. Of the 10 people, 2 have cancer, indicated by the positive signs, and the rest don't. And in the case of natural human errors and natural tendencies to make mistakes, the doctors misinterpret the data. And so the 2 people who were diagnosed with cancer, one was claimed to actually have cancer. And so out of the 8 people who were not diagnosed, 4 people's conditions were misinformed, which meant that only about half of the exams was correct. So at this point, this is where the topics of machine learning and medical screening kind of intertwine and overlap, because at this point, questions that arise like how can we help address these issues? What can we do? What can we bring to the table to help solve some of these issues? And that leads me to my next point: machine learning. As we mentioned, machine learning can use past experiences, and so the scenario that we previously mentioned, what machine learning can do is use the past information about a certain disease, whether that's cancer or arthritis or any type of diseases, to find remedies and solutions to help address the certain disease. And what differentiates machine learning from a typical human doctor is the speed and efficiency at which it can do it. It's stated by El Hosoun that machine learning is 80 to 90% times faster at recognizing the diseases than a typical doctor. And so this just shows how efficient machine learning is in the medical screen. But not everything is sunshine and rainbows. We have ethics. Ethics plays a role. So ethics relates to moral principles and the things that benefit society and benefit the individual person. As we mentioned, machine learning is very effective. It's so effective that Reyes et al. States that in 2024, translating will be outperformed by machine learning. By 2026, writing high school essays will be outperformed by machine learning, driving trucks by 2027, and working as a surgeon by 2053. Now, this is the point where the ethics kind of plays a role and how there are some issues that correlate within the topic. And so this is my goal of the research, is to really find solutions to help address some of those issues. So here are one of my findings. So this graph is a chart from 2013 to 2018 showing the rising trend in publications of keywords related to machine learning, ethics, and medical screening. You see that in 2013 there were 1,662 publications related to machine learning. In 2018, there was 6,586, which we see a substantial growth, and this just shows the rising trend. And this is the same for machine learning in medicine, machine learning medicine and ethics, and machine learning and ethics. Now, as I went about my research, I found there were two causes for this rising trend, and one of them was due to the efficacy and the efficiency of machine learning. As we mentioned, machine learning is very efficient in finding solutions and finding solutions at really fast rates. And this is further exemplified by 2021, which showed an improved accuracy for carotid atherosclerosis screening. This is basically a disease where the airflow within the body is limited, causing strokes. And this disease is most common from ages 30 to 60. And although it has impacted a lot of people, it's a disease that is still prevalent today. In her study, she found that with machine learning, the predictability scale of CAS was 0.748 compared to non-machine learning like applications which was below 0.5. And the closer it was to 1, the more accurate it was. So this was about 75% accurate. And in addition, there is a process called the systematic review. Systematic review is a process where doctors take in information, read past data to gather up new conclusions to build solutions and remedies for a patient's certain condition. And so that what machine learning can do in that field is that 89% to 90% and 35 to 40% the total workload is substantially reduced. And the reason why there's two different percentages because there are different components of systematic review, such as finding the sources, analyzing it, and consulting what to do on that. So a lot of the workload is reduced. And because the workload is reduced, we see an increase in the job workflow, the workflow in the overall community. This is because doctors are not having to do repetitive tasks that takes for hours, whereas they can focus on other patient needs that machine learning can't, such as psychological help, mental health, and physical therapy, and the others. The second reason why there's a rising trend is because of the ethical concerns. Ethical concerns. Machine learning is a very complex, is a complex topic of its own. So it can be kind of hard to interpret without any formal education and knowledge. And so that raises some transparency issues. When people are not aware of what machine learning is and how it functions, they don't want to put their trust in that system. And machine learning works by taking data. And so when people don't trust the machines to give their data, that can raise some privacy issues stated by Menzel and Engel-Wolf in 2020. And lastly, one last ethical concern is bias and fairness. There are some instances where machine learning can be discriminatory against a certain skin color or a certain ethnicity. And so those are one of the two reasons why there's this growth in some of the commonalities found among my sources. And which leads me to my conclusion and results. So I've concluded that through my research, there needs to be a framework. And the ideal framework should consist of a regulatory framework that helps the privacy concerns. This can be seen by the European General Data Protection Regulation, or the GDPR, and the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, the HIPPA, which both gave out consent forms before consulting patients about how machine learning will impact their records. And so this was to make sure that whenever things went wrong in machine learning, the people that signed the forms were not held accountable. And so this was to ensure that the privacy issues were met. Which leads to the second point, is that the ideal framework should consist of strong moral principles that deal with bias. There was a study done by Snell in 2020 that in Georgia, applications of machine learning was, the performance of machine learning was significantly reduced to a dark pedestrian. And so this was because of the lack of databases to cover other varieties of people. And so machine learning should have moral principles that relate to equality and things that don't discriminate people. So the last part of the ideal framework is that it should have a strong and diversified database to reduce fairness issues. This is seen by Blackman 2020. There were some instances where a certain ethnicity was subjugated because of what they were, and so machine learning should not have that type of framework. They should have strong databases that can cover a wide variety of people no matter what their ethnicity was. Lastly, to help address some of these ethical concerns, there should be an awareness of machine learning ethics. Especially, this is seen by leading universities and academic institutions where they incorporate more curriculums to educate programmers about the impacts of machine learning and the pros and cons. And so there should be more of that, so that more people are more aware of how to address the issues and such. So some implications of my research is that as technology becomes more and more advanced, and it's in our best interest to follow that same trend, because if we lag behind, our people and the people involved and the patients in the medical screening would be detrimentally affected, and this research would be crucial for further medical treatment, because by understanding the ethical issues and the solutions, we could further help patient satisfaction and to deal with some of their common misunderstanding with machine learning. Some limitations within research is the black box. It's a stage in a work, like it's a stage of machine learning where even the programmers are not aware of what's happening. And so this was a limitation to my research because there wasn't much research done on it, and I wasn't able to find solutions on how to address that certain limitation. And lastly, as mentioned, the ideal framework works, and bringing awareness requires funding. And so if we're not able to have government funding, it would be hard to incorporate these in our practical lives. And to answer this research question, what improvements can reduce issues regarding ethics and efficacy of machine learning in medical screening? We need to create a framework that embodies strong moral principles that don't discriminate, that deals with privacy and transparency issues. My references. What is it? 14. Bruh. Okay, I can slow down.
So, what was one obstacle or challenge you encountered while performing the research, and how did you address it?
So, could you repeat that question?
What was one obstacle or challenge you encountered while performing the research, and how did you address it?
So I think one challenge in my research was nitpicking what type of information I needed from each subtopic, because there's machine learning, ethics, and medical screening. So it was just a bunch of things that were piled up. And so I addressed this by looking into what machine learning can do for medical screening and how ethics plays a role. So I just kind of went in circles and finding the correlations between different topics.
What was the most important source of information you found while conducting your research, and why was it important?
The most important source was by Sutrop, which stated that there was ethical concerns behind medical screening. Before, I was always thinking of how beneficial machine learning can be for medical screening. And so after finding this source, my research kind of shifted into finding the solutions to help address the ethical concerns.
Okay, so if you could revisit the research process, what would you do differently? Would you choose a different area of inquiry, and if so, why? If you choose the same research question, project goal, what different methods or approaches would you use?
I think I would maintain the same research inquiry because it was just really intriguing topic on its own. And I think if I were to redo this research, I would definitely try to find more quantitative data on the specific numbers of how efficient machine learning is in medical screening.
Why are there so many?
Is that it?
Am I supposed to ask?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.